Okay, we are back with another episode of First Generation Bowhunter. This is the podcast you're going to learn how to bow hunt if you're new at it and you didn't grow up doing this. And that's what the show is all about. So thanks for being here. If you're liking what you hear, drop a review on Apple iTunes and rate on Spotify and pass along to another First Generation Bowhunter. This is hopefully really helpful and pass it around. So, okay, well, we are now on episode 82. And last episode in 81, I did a hunt recap. Now I want to talk about the specific use of an e bike when you're hunting. I've been using an e bike for about 3 years now. I've covered this before, but this last trip, there was a lot that happened that really kind of made me think like I need to make mental note of that and I need to pass that along. So this is a very comprehensive episode on all things e-biking and prepping, running your bike out there. What do you do with it? All the things. So I'm gonna dive in, buckle up. If you're interested in e-biking on a hunt, or you already bought an e-bike and you're like, sweet, this is gonna fix all my problems and it's gonna run me up the mountain real fast, this is the episode for you because there's so many little nuances when you're e-biking on a hunt that I want to pass along. Okay. So let me just step back on what bikes that I have used while hunting. I started seeing e-bikes pop up quite a few years ago and they were super expensive, like untouchable. I was like, man, there's no way. Like, I'm never going to be able to afford an e-bike. Well, my first e-bike I ever bought, this is funny actually. I bought a Rad Rover or no, Rad bike, and it was there's a mid-drive engine and then a rear drive engine. The rear drive engine is where the wheel in the back has that big center hub that's black and it's huge. You don't want that because all that weight is in the back of the bike. You want a mid-drive engine. So Quiet Cat has a few rear drives. There's a few bike brands still floating around with rear drives. Do not get them. If you're going to do any climbing at all, do not even mess with it. It's a nightmare. So my first bike was a rad power bike, and I paid like 900 bucks for it. And I was like, dang, that's so much money, but I think this could be really cool for hunting. So I bought it and I was zipping around town. I was like, oh, dude, this thing is sweet. Like, this is going to crush it in the mountains. No, it was awful. I was pushing that thing up every hill. It was the worst. Lesson learned. Yeah. So not good. And so since then I moved on to, so I got rid of that. I actually sold that one for 1,500 bucks. I couldn't believe it. I like washed it down, got it all sparkly, and actually made a few bucks. So that was cool. Then I went to an iZip. These are old and it didn't have front suspension. It was fixed suspension. That was a rough ride. It was a fat tire, which was good, but oh man, it was a rough ride. And so I had that a little bit longer. I think I never hunted with it actually. I ran out and did some trail cams and just kind of tried it out a few times and it wasn't a good fit. So I actually made a couple of bucks off that one too. It's funny. I used to flip a lot of things, so pretty good at that. But and then so then I started getting into more name brand stuff, started getting into Quiet Cat. My first Quiet Cat was a 750 watt. It was an older Quiet Cat, one of the first years that had come out. And it was a great bike, super powerful. The battery didn't last as long as some of the newer ones, so I always had to really budget my battery. And when they say like the bike's going to go 55 miles, yeah, I mean that means flat ride, no incline, you're getting groceries. Yeah, sure, you can get 55 miles or whatever it's claiming. It was a great bike. It was super burly. I had a trailer with it. I took the trailer out once, did an overnighter, and I think I measured how long I was with the bike and the trailer. I think I was 12 feet long. It was obnoxious. And I was on like a single track, and oh my gosh, like people were trying to pass me, and yeah, it was a nightmare. Trailers are good for flatland, I would say, maybe like more waterfowl use. Man, not for like, I was so glad I dry runned that because that was a nightmare. Trailers are a nightmare. I don't, yeah. So, so I sold the trailer. I kept the bike. I actually rented out that bike. I made like $700 one hunting season. It was kind of cool. But so I then I had that one for like 2 seasons actually, and did a lot of hunting, pulled 2, 3 animals off the mountain with it. It was pretty cool. I loved it. And then let's see. I had that for a while, and then I was like, "Oh, I want more battery life and I want more wattage in the engine." So I jumped from a 750 watt to 1,000 in a Quiet Cat. It was the Apex. Really great bike. It was a little bit older, but it had the turbo mode. It had a little bit more bells and whistles. I loved that bike. It was a hardtail, great suspension in the front. The bike was awesome. And I want to say it was a 17 or 18 megahertz battery. And so you got to know what megahertz you're using, because maybe I'm using it, saying it wrong, but the battery size is really important. And so I took it up on a really steep climb, and it was way back in there. It was probably 8 miles, but it was probably 2,000 feet of vertical, and it didn't make it. I totally just ran that battery hard. And it was a zippy bike, but I pushed it way too hard. So um, I I would have kept it. I wanted to keep going farther, and so I was like, man, I think this is always going to be a thing. I'm a little bummed I sold that bike. I loved the Quiet Cat Apex. It was simple, it was reliable. I think I pushed it past what it could deliver. So it wasn't a bad bike. I wanted more, but maybe I should have chilled out. So I went from an 18 sized battery up to a 21, and that's what I'm on right now is the IBEX. I don't love some things about the IBEX. I don't love the full suspension in the back. It's always just something else that can fail. So what I've done is I pumped up the rear suspension as high as it'll go, as if I weigh 400 pounds, so it doesn't compress at all. And the reason why I do that is when you're riding and you have a ton of weight on you, it's not like mountain biking where you want that soft ride. You're hunting, so you've got 50 pounds on your back, you've got gear attached to panniers on the sides of your bike. It's just different. So it's not about enjoying the ride, it's about utility of like, this is going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to get me up the mountain. That's how I look at e-biking. I don't look at it as, oh yeah, let's go e-biking on a hunt. It's let's go hunting. I'm using an e-bike to get me to the hunt. The Ibex is great for battery life. I don't feel like I've ever really ran it so hard that it just can't, make it. Um, but I did have some failure on the rear suspension. The rock shock completely blew out, which means it compressed all the way down. So when I was pedaling, my pedals were hitting rocks and actually the ground. It was only like 3 inches above the ground, and it should have been like 6 or 7. So I bottomed out, and I was trying to make it up this mountain, and I was so frustrated. I had no idea it was the suspension. I just thought, I was like, what is wrong with this bike? I was so mad. But I got a good deal on it, and so it's worked out, and I got it replaced. Quiet Cat did honor that, which is awesome. The other thing, and I'll dive into the hunt here in a second, but the other thing I want to talk about is the rear hub. How it works is for it to power forward to propel you forward. The hub inside, past the cassette, has what's called these pawls, Pawls, Pawls. and they're kind of like teeth, and they grip into a cam, and that's what makes you go forward. When you're coasting on a bike and your rear wheel is spinning but your pedals aren't moving, and you hear that click, 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 those are the pawls clicking. Okay. Well, Quiet Cat doesn't use very good pawls, and their rear hub is complete trash. I'm just going to say it. It's called Quanta, and it's the absolute worst. I went through 2 rear hubs in like 2 weeks. And what'll happen is I was going up a hill. Maybe it was too steep, whatever, but it looked like the Quiet Cat commercial. So, yeah. And I'm going up this steep hill, and all of a sudden I'm pedaling, pedaling, and then all of a sudden I pedal and nothing happens. And it's like my chain broke. And I just was pedaling and it was just spinning freely. And I looked down, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on with this bike? Chain was fine. It was the hub completely exploded, basically internally. Oh man, it ruined my hunt. I was so mad. Thankfully, I could coast all the way back down. Mostly the hunting I doing is I'm just getting up the hill, I hunt, and then I come back down. I don't even use battery on the way back down, so I can really budget my battery thoughtfully that way. Dude, I was so frustrated. And I just bought the bike too. I didn't have it that long. Anyway, I called Quiet Cat. They sent me out another rear hub. I blew through that one in a week. I was like, great, it's new. Awesome. I'm going to go use it like the commercial. Yeah, no, doesn't work. So I was in the middle of hunting season, and desperately I went to my bike shop and I was like, I'm blowing through hubs. Quiet Cat, they're using these crap Quanta rear hubs. What do you got for me? Like, what can I do here? What are my options? And it was a little frustrating because they were like, oh, you bought one of those internet bikes. And when you go to a bike shop, they are pretty against the direct to consumer bike companies, rightfully so, because it means they can't really make money off them. Uh, anyway, so I go in and they're like, here's some options. We can build you a DT Swiss rear hub, be like from the bottom up. And I'm like, cool. Okay. That sounds good. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like just kind of going along with it, not thinking very much. It was $680 for that stupid wheel. Oh, wow. That hurt. But I was desperate. I mean, here I am. I've got a bike that doesn't work. I can't even ride up anything steep. Super frustrated. So I said, okay, go ahead and build it. So they got it built, and I've been on it for a year, and I have had 0 issues, and I've done some pretty steep stuff. Now, let me say something on that. I would highly recommend do not ride it like the commercial. It's not a dirt bike. It's still heavy, especially my bike, the IBEX. It's like 72 pounds without anything packed on it. So you throw yourself, I'm 180, you throw a big pack on, pannier bags, water, tools, all that. Dude, that thing is toting around a ton of weight. So be careful on the inclines. I jump off and I just walk the inclines nowadays, and I'll just do the walk mode. It's the best thing to do. So that's where I want to kind of start was when you're hitting those switchbacks. The hunt I did on the last episode that I did the recap, I did a fair amount of walking and just kind of safely got up that way. I'll just say it. I don't wear a helmet when I e-bike when I'm hunting. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't see a lot of people do it, which isn't a good reason not to. But if you're curious, I don't know. Use your best judgment. Like maybe figure out a way. Maybe some hunting company needs to come out with like a e-bike helmet that actually looks cool when you're hunting. Who knows? So I generally walk, some of those sketchier spots. The last hunt that I did, it had some pretty sketchy, like full rock bouldery, sections. So take it slow, be thoughtful. And then the other thing I was doing on this trip was it was 7 miles in, And so about every mile, I would just stop and I would turn off the bike. And I don't know why I did this. No one's ever told me to do this. I just thought, I wonder if we can run these e-bikes too hard and we're just bomb, 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 like just go, go, go. And we expect so much out of them. What was interesting was when I did that, I was watching the battery life. So I'd go up and I'd stop and it's like 89% battery. So I'd turn the e-bike off and I'd like take some pictures and, check out the area, maybe glass a little bit. And it gave it time just maybe for that. I don't think they heat up, but in my mind, I'm like, you're probably pretty friggin' hot. I mean, I'm running you at a pretty high gear and high speed and whatnot. Well, I'd turn the bike back on and I turned it off at like 89%. Well, I'd open it back up and it'd be like 91%. And I'm like, really? Dang, that's crazy. So I kept doing that and it kept having that 2 to 3% little sway, which isn't much, but it was kind of a cool little thing that I learned about, you know, like letting the bike rest almost. Anyway, if you're going to e-bike, just know that it's just not like a horse. It's not like this. Yeah, it is like a horse. Horses have to drink, they have to rest, they have to gather their bearings. So keep that in mind if you're going to e-bike, especially like even if you buy the $4,000 e-bike, you kind of have to be thoughtful of, it's a machine, it can have failure and be thoughtful there. The Quiet Cat that I have I bought it used. I would highly recommend buying used, by the way. You're still going to get some level of service from a brand, but the cool thing is they generally come with a lot of accessories. So I had these big waterproof bags on each side of the rear wheel, super burly, and they quick snap on and off. They twist, lock on and off. Awesome. Like just they're burly and they carry a ton of stuff. So I have all my tools. I've got water in there, got an extra tube, and all kind of that safety gear. So definitely bring that gear. Don't make any assumptions that, just because you're on these big fat tires, everything's going to just be fine. They generally do pretty well. And, fat tires are pretty stinking burly. But each season, I kind of recommend like take out the old ones, put in some new ones. It's, things get dry, they get cracked, and it's just good to kind of maintain it. It just, any way I can make a hunt be as successful as possible and not be subject to my gear, my stuff that I'm bringing, I don't want it holding me back. So make sure you bring all that, but just be very thoughtful of how much you're loading up. So the other day when I was out hunting, I packed like 4 single water bottles on each side of my pannier bags. So I had a ton of water, and I was trying to leave some water up top for my friend who also hunts that area. So I was pretty maxed out. And then with 3 days of backpacking gear, and yeah, that's why I walked it, because I was like, I don't expect this machine to just carry me and all my crap up every little incline. When you're doing your speeds, so on my Quiet Cat, it's got 1 through 5, 5 being the fastest, and then it's got a sport mode. I try to use it sparingly. I mean, this was a steep climb, so I'm staying in gear 4 and rarely in gear 5 of the speed level. It does have a throttle, which you have to be careful of because it's a level 3 bike. And if you get one of those, they're not really legal on all trails. And they're starting to crack down on that. So just be aware of what you're buying and where you can go. The throttle is super nice though, because when you're ultra heavy on your bag and you've got a heavy bike, if you're trying to get started on just the slightest incline, you hit that throttle and it just gets you going. It's a dumb little feature, but it's an awesome little feature, and you might have to spend more for it. But I'm a throttle guy. So one thing I noticed too that I want to call out was you'll be riding along your e-bike, and the brakes are sticking out, right? Just like any bike. And if you're in some tight brush and you're riding up an incline and you're relying on that motor to pedal assist you up, you'll be riding along and a branch will hit my brakes. And if it does that, it'll shut the motor off. And it happened like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, holy smokes. So one thing I did when I was riding, I stuck my hand out to force that brake to stay open, so it didn't compress to shut the motor off. So a little bit of like oh man, I mean, it's kind of a safety thing because you could be plowing along and be like, yep, I'm good, I'm getting up this thing, and then just your bike shuts down. It, yeah, it could not go over well. With that, I also found myself kind of backing my hands off a little bit because there were so many branches. So I threw some gloves on, thankfully, that I had. I have this Black Ovis Hilltop. Awesome, awesome, glove there. Nice fit, good dexterity. I mean, I would bow hunt in it if it wasn't so warm outside. So probably late season, I'll be doing a little bit more, holding the gloves type thing. But it was nice because I could just plow through branches, not worry about it. It was yeah, worked out really well. So consider gloves, but be mindful of those breaks, getting smacked into something. And then again, if you're glassing along the way up, like take breaks. Even like when I'm riding my e-bike in the highest level possible and it's going super fast, I like to take breaks because you want to be really sharp in the mind and not be just plowing up stuff. You can kind of get into a daze a little bit, especially on the way down. Your arms are just taking all that compression, all the boulders, all the rocks. So it's good to like be aware of that and just not think that this is just a dirt bike that does whatever you want, stop, go, all that. Be familiar with how to work on bikes too. It's good to know how to take care of a chain, how to kind of adjust a derailleur, and relying on a bike shop too much is hard because even if you can't fix it in the outdoors, at least you can have some kind of sense of what's going on. So I'd say try to become as familiar with your bike as possible. And then I'm trying to think. Oh, battery life. We talked about that a little bit. But when I was riding up this particular trail and getting to this hunting spot, I mean, it was 7 miles. I think 1,500 feet of vertical climb, and I had 55% battery left. So what that tells me is I could have gone down and then gone right back up and then gone down again, which is kind of cool. So it's good to like test run that a little bit. But I was also fully loaded down with gear. So that tells me like, okay, that's about the max amount of gear I can bring. Because if I was throwing animal on that and I was trying to head up, let's say, I wouldn't be, I would be headed back down. But, adding 50, 80 pounds of meat on that run and I'm trying to get back up, that could be a battery drainer. What I want to do is do that same trail with no gear and just like maybe a camelback with a little bit of water and see what the battery will do. But I highly recommend don't just pull the e-bike out of the box, throw your crap on and just go. It's a huge risk because you're also like incredibly unbalanced even with your backpack on. It takes, and you don't want to strap your bow to your backpack and then have an accident and then you're like, oh my gosh, I just tipped over. I mean, you can get really tippy e-biking. It In the commercials they make it look so chill and it's like, oh, it looks so fun, but like when you're climbing some serious mountains, you got to be really smart about it because yeah, you could really wreck yourself, especially if you're like me and you don't wear a helmet. So keep that in mind. And let's think what else. Oh, okay, so when I get to a spot, I generally carry a cable with me. But generally, what I like to do is I'll hide an air tag on the e-bike. There's so many ways you can hide an air tag. Just look up what preference you'd like, but that's really a good way to do it, kind of theft prevention or recovery. But I have brought like a cable up with me. I didn't on this last one, and it's just extra weight and then kind of get in the way. But the other thing you can do too is I really like these is there's this little lock that you can put on the disc brake, and so it just slides a locking pin through the brake, and it won't make it go no matter what. That could be kind of cool because it's really small. It's like the size of your finger, and it's teeny. It's, lightweight. I haven't really had too many worries. I will be on some trails where there are a lot of other people, and I'm always like, man, wouldn't that suck to come back and try to find your bike and you've got 3 miles to go, and someone yanks your bike out of the woods. So I'm not overly worried about it, but it is a nice little precaution of like, how could I recover or keep my bike within my possession? So think of something. I highly recommend having some kind of plan B, not just be so trusting. Highly recommend a kickstand. They should come with a kickstand. If it doesn't, get a kickstand, like 10,000%, because you'll stop a lot. And honestly, you'll get tired of holding the bike, and you don't want to lay it down, because if it's packed on with stuff, it's really annoying in certain places along the trail. So get a kickstand, 100%. Do not pass go. Get a kickstand. They're totally, totally worth it. As far as lights go, I have the Quiet Cat branded light. It's pretty spendy. See, I didn't buy it. It came with the used bike that I got, so that was cool. They're spending like $80 to $100, and they're powerful. But on most like Amazon listings, you can find a pretty good light that works just fine for like $20, and they're all rechargeable now and really easy to use. My wife just got one, and it has a little battery indicator, which is so nice. But try this sounds like super nitty gritty, but try to find something that has the same charging cord as maybe something else you have with you. I do have this really great charging pad that I stole from my wife. Actually, it's like the size of a large iPhone, and it's got these like 3 cords that come out of it, and it's a rechargeable bank. And it charged my walkie-talkie, it charged my phone, it charged my Peaks headlamp, a little accessory like dome light that I have, and it was cool. And it was like $27 off Amazon there. So yeah, there's just a few of those things you kind of learn. And the rechargeable headlights, they last quite some time, and people will also ride with a headlamp on their head, and you can really brighten up the trail. And night riding is pretty fun. So if you're trying to rationalize an e-bike and you're like, oh, I want to use it for hunting in the off season, they're they're really awesome. I mean, my wife and I, we love our e-bikes. They're a great time. And so yeah, it's kind of cool to buy something that is going to last all year long, not just like, oh, I only use this for hunting season. That kind of helps soften the blow a little bit when you're buying something that expensive. I, to kind of wrap up on the e-bike, I would just say, just be safe and just know that there are machines that take care, and be mindful. Um, just because it says, oh, it'll go 65 miles doesn't mean you just hit hit the throttle and just be like, okay, great, take me there. It's like, be mindful of noises, be mindful of all of it. And really, in the Quiet Cat, this is my third Quiet Cat, and I haven't had much issues other than the rear suspension, but that was a rock shock issue. So I don't know if I'd blame that on Quiet Cat, but I will blame Quiet Cat on the rear hub, those pawls exploding. That was a bummer. So just depends on what you're climbing. And I've had to tone it down a little bit. Even like, I don't want to just keep putting so much pressure, but I do need to get uh that DT Swiss inspected. So I actually want to take it back to the shop, because hey, for $700, yeah, you can take a look at it a year later and make sure it's running. So like to do that before I really get into the season this year. And I know Baku makes a really good bike. I've ridden theirs before, and I whatever you do, it's okay to buy a used e-bike, but stay away from the rear drives. And people will sell them for like cheap, and you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, this is sweet." And you got to look close. If it's a big old black hub and the rear wheel, stay away. Get a mid drive. You'll hit a hill with that rear drive and just be like, crap, I'm not going anywhere. And you'll be walking way more than you expect. So, yeah, have fun with it, but please be safe. Just like as I was riding around this weekend, I was like, man, there's so many things happening and it's just not worth it, especially like it's an expensive piece of gear. I mean, it's double any bow setup. You're in, well, on my ibex, I got a killer of a deal because I don't know. I'm patient and lucky, I guess. But I paid $2,200 for it, and that was a steal of a deal. And but yeah, I mean, you could be in 25 to $3,000 easy. So shop around, hold out. Save I like saving the listing and then just come back to it in a few weeks and see if they still have it. Generally, they're maybe drop it a few bucks, get a deal there. But yeah, shoot me any questions you've got. Adam_Buchanan on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm probably wearing the First Generation Bowhunter shirt. I should be in all my profile photos. And then also want to give a shout out to partner camofire.com. Great place to get discounted gear. I work for them actually. We sell everything under the sun. So every day there's new deals, and you can get camo backpacks, whitetail gear, tree stands, some tactical stuff. You can get like sound earmuffs for like shooting your rifle by walkers. Man, we've got broadheads galore. We actually have some pretty good deals on broadheads. Bee Stinger, gold tip arrows. Shout out to my good partners over at Gold Tip. And yeah, just check it out. Yeah, there's good deals on Sitka. There's some First Light stuff happening right now. If you're listening to this live, go jump over to the vault. It's like a members area, or you can get some more deals. That's pretty cool too. So yeah, camofire.com. And I do work for them, but just shout out to my day job. Yeah, hunting deals every day. And you can save up 40 to 60% off hunting gear because hunting gear is freaking expensive. Let's be real. Okay. It's freaking expensive. All right. So it'll save you a few bucks. You can put some towards gas and a gas station burrito because I know you're going to get one. I get them all the time. So I hope your hunting season is kicking off. I just wanted to share this episode 82 on e-biking, because it's so tempting to just go buy a bike and just be like, bam, it's going to get me everywhere I need to go. Just practice with it, load it up, get some weight on that thing before you just go tearing up the mountain, because you could be walking that thing back if you push it too far. So, all right. Well, that's it for me. If you liked what you hear, please subscribe to First Generation Bowhunter and tell a friend, write a review on iTunes, rate on Spotify, and yeah, join the First Generation Bowhunter community. And thank you so much for being here. We'll catch you on the next one.